listening to your brain on air. The program will begin shortly. Enjoy.
Slušate svoj mozak uživo. Program će uskoro početi. Uživajte.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Your Brain on Air. I am your host, YBOA Larson, and I speak 5 languages: Hebrew, English, Russian, Spanish, and one more that I can't speak about. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wednesday broadcast. I'm so happy to be with you once again. We have a vast collection of stories. Some of them, I'll admit, they're not going to be the most fun to talk about. As a lifelong Minnesotan, I admit the fact that the state is wrestling with its image, according to the Minnesota State Tribune, is not the most comforting thing. You know what I mean? Listen, this is from the January 20th issue. You know what I mean? After high-profile tragedies, we're tired and we're hurting. For the people who live in Minnesota or have roots here, seeing the state become the center of international attention for tragic reasons now feels like a reoccurring nightmare. I mean, absolutely. We all dealt with this back during the lockdown, you know what I mean? If you were here during COVID, some people just got here within the 2020s. If you have not been living here since at least the 2000s, I think you should be forcefully removed from your homes, and native Minnesotans should get an opportunity at them. I'm just saying. It should be like a Holy Land kind of concept. You know what I mean? If you're native to a state, you have certain jurisdictions and rights, rather than people that are like coming from Nebraska. You know what I mean? We have a Nebraskan as our governor right now. It's ridiculous. Minnesotans, especially in the urban heart, Minneapolis, according to this article, have been in the global spotlight since the killing of Renee Good by federal immigration agents on January 7th. For many, the extraordinary scrutiny has been strikingly similar to what followed the murder of George Floyd in 2020. I've been saying this the whole time. Listen, I'll take a break from it for right now. It's not going to be our first story. Admittedly, our first story, it's going to be sadder than that. It's going to be not sadder, but just more important to talk about. So people are going to look at it and they're going to go, ooh, I'd rather not hear about it. So, but you know what? In a weird way, those are the most fun stories to cover, aren't they? So ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to dilly-dally anymore. Let's jump into the first thing. Oh my goodness, the UK NHS National Health Service revises its advice for Brits around the first cousin marriage. What? They're encouraging everyone to consider benefits before the costs. What am I even hearing, ladies and gentlemen? Let's hear it from the horse's mouth. Is that how the phrase goes? I don't know. This is the Brits themselves. Here you go.
Britain's National Health Service says marriage and procreation between first cousins can be beneficial, and the risks have been, quote, exaggerated. New documents show that the NHS guidance to midwives states 15% of cousin couples have children that are affected by genetic conditions, compared to just 3% of children born to unrelated parents.
So wait a minute, 15% for first cousins, that's still a 5% increase versus the 3% chance for non-related couples. What are they even talking about here? Wait, okay, so I just want to get this across. I think, and my general theory here, and I'm a little worried, is not a lot of people want to say this out loud, that a certain degree of inbreeding has unfortunately come into the country's culture as of recent. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's of any particular origin. I'm not saying anything to try to convince anybody. I'm just saying that there are definitely sources of inbreeding where like it's culturally normative. It's not something that is looked upon as like it wasn't illegal. It's illegal in the United States, right? At least it is in some states. Is it illegal in the United States, in the U.S., to marry your first cousin? Let's make it very, 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 very particular. It is not universally illegal in the United States. Laws may vary significantly state by state, with some states allowing it freely like California, Colorado, and New York, some permitting it with conditions like age, infertility, or genetic counseling like Arizona, Illinois, and Maine, and few banning it outright like Texas, Louisiana, and Ohio. Jesus, Texas Texas, Louisiana, and Ohio, they have their shit right. Let me just get it real. Like, I'm not gonna lie, they might be heavy red states, but Jesus fuck, it's actually the blue states mildly. Arizona, Illinois, Maine, Colorado, California, New York. They're the ones that are like, maybe you can maybe remarry your cousin. That's a little. Listen. Texas, Louisiana, and Ohio, I'm just saying. Here are states where it's generally allowed. Alabama, of course, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, D.C. Here are states with certain restrictions: age or infertility, Arizona, Illinois, Indiana, Utah, genetic counseling, Maine, adoption, Louisiana has it via adoption. Damn, Louisiana, you got to fucking sort that shit out. What I'm saying is that, like, it should be a law. It should be a law that you shouldn't be able to marry your first cousin. I don't feel like that's a controversial thing to say.
However, the guidelines then go on to describe the benefits of cousin marriages.
The benefits.
It can provide financial and social security and generate collective social capital. Disease, cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, sickle cell, cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy.
And muscular dystrophy are some of the genetic issues more common among the children of closely related parents.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Let's go ahead. I want to play a clip from a documentary for you guys, because it might not be the most comfortable thing to watch. It might not be the most, I'm just going to say it. It's not going to be a nice thing for us all to hear and listen to, but I think it's important. I think it's something that we all need to address. It's something we all need to hear. Let's go ahead and let's hear it.
The potential consequences of first cousin marriages are tragic and devastating. My grandparents are first cousins. 5 of their daughters died in childhood, and 3 of my uncles were born deaf. At the time, no one knew why, because the facts were not known. Today, the medical facts are established, but the practice continues. Here in Bradford, where the Akhtars live, 75% of Pakistanis marry their first cousins. Anywhere between 4 and 10% of the children in these families will be born with genetic abnormalities. And these illnesses are often fatal. 1/3 of children with diseases caused by recessive genes will die before they turn 5. The disease affecting Mohsin, Hina and Zainab is the direct result of their mother and father being first cousins. Both parents carry the recessive gene that has caused the children's disabilities. If they had married outside of the family, there would have been only a tiny chance of their children being born with the genetic disorder. But in the case of the Akhtars as first cousins, the odds narrowed dramatically to a 1 in 4 chance that any child they had would be born with the illness. In the event, 3 of their 6 children were born with the disease.
Yeah, and this is really sad. This is devastating. It's devastating to not only the people that are, forced into this world with rare genetic diseases, all those sorts of things. It's torturous for their parents. It's torturous for everybody, and it's not good for anybody. But it's for some reason in certain communities and cultures, I will say that there's certain regions of a lot of white culture that have issues with this. I will say that. The Habsburgs, it was all over Europe. I'm just going to say it. It was hot with white people for the longest time. You know what I mean? It was bloodline pure type of stuff. And you know what I mean? They kept it alive in the South. They kept it alive in certain and not to say just the South. Like in the North, they got freaky too. Don't get me wrong. There are people that were like up in the North Peninsula of Michigan with families, and it was like, oh, wait a minute, who's that? Okay, wait a minute, there's supposed to be a few grandparents here, and there's only two people here. There's only a man and a woman. They're like 90 years old, and everybody's saying their grandpa. Ooh, okay, I'm uncomfortable. And you know what I mean? That's just happening everywhere. But admittedly, the levels of it, the levels of inbreeding that you detect in certain populations, it's just nerve-wracking. Anyways, continue. Britain, for some reason, has an issue with their Pakistani population because, I don't know, if you look at inbreeding levels in Pakistan, I think that the numbers just kind of speak for themselves. It's not necessarily racist to look at their Census Bureau numbers. I don't know that that's anything. Is it controversial to say that? I don't know. If it's a fact, I don't think so.
Mohsin has a rare genetic disease which is gradually destroying his body. He was born with it because his mother and father are first cousins. More than half of British Pakistanis marry their first cousins. Tonight on Dispatches, the tragic consequences of a cultural practice that is devastating children's lives. Mohsin's younger sister Hina is 13. She's the Akhtar's fourth child. Her sister Zainab is 11. Both sisters have inherited the same disease as Mohsin. They can neither see nor hear. All three children have an extremely rare genetic disorder called mucolipidosis type 4.
They got the kids drinking Pepsi with their meals, so that's definitely going to help them really, see clearly now the rain is gone.
Their bodies cannot get rid of waste products properly, affecting everyday brain function from vision to movement. The potential consequences of first cousin marriages are tragic and devastating. My grandparents are first cousins. 5 of their daughters died in childhood, and 3 of my uncles were born deaf. At the time, no one knew why, because the facts were not known.
Not
Today,
cute.
the medical facts are established, but the practice continues. Here in Bradford, where the Akhtars live, 75% of Pakistanis marry their first cousins.
75.
Anywhere between 4 and 10% of the children in these families will be born with genetic abnormalities. And these illnesses are often fatal. 1/3 of children with diseases caused by recessive genes will die before they turn 5. The disease
That's
affecting
okay.
Mohsin, Hina,
I don't know what else to say. Okay. I mean, whatever becomes normal within your culture will become the law. I don't know what else to say except for the fact that, like, there have been responses. There's been people that have been trying to ban cousin marriages. There have been people that have been trying to actually, put a stop to this kind of bullshit. But then they end up getting met with takedowns in court, which is the nuttiest thing. Hold on, actually, I have a clip for that. But actually, if you're going, wait a minute, no, this is not a cultural practice. This isn't something that any particular hemispheres engage in. This isn't anything. I understand that there's an instinct by a lot of people to see the best in many. There's an instinct in a lot of people, especially liberal-minded people, that it's like not every person wants, not every person is evil. There's no such thing as evil in the world. If you get down to people's hearts, a lot of people, they just want to be respected. They want good homes. They want children that go to school. They want good neighborhoods. That's not true. The entire world is not filled with people who all want the same universal utopia. The world is full of people who are like Eastern European warlords, you know what I mean? Who like want bloodshed and tyranny. They want to kill everything around them. They want guns, they want money, they want hoes, they want polyamorous relationships, they want like multiple families, they want multiple wives, they want them to live in different hovels all around Albania or something. There's a real like layer of humanity that I don't think a lot of people live in or understand, because they've only lived in the America where it's pretty civilized. People go to work, they get checks every whatever, and admittedly America has its problems, but they don't fundamentally understand that there are cultures, there are peoples, there are entire nations that have practices, that have ideals, that have methodologies that would make you like run screaming. They would make you turn around and scream if you were on vacation, and you would be running to get back on the plane. If you don't believe me, check. Hear their own words in many of their own cases. I'm just gonna. Here's a TikTok from a gentleman who claims to be a person who espouses things that are halal.
Is it acceptable to marry my cousin? If you want to marry her, go ahead. It is halal. Now, for some reason, this is something people make fun of Muslims. Oh, go marry your cousin, go marry your cousin. Yo, bro, we marry cousins all the time. People have been marrying cousins for millions of years, bro. And yes, the chances of a birth defect might be increased, but it's not to the level where Allah knows us. Allah knows best.
Allah knows
it's not
best.
to the level where it's going to be dangerous. My parents were cousins. Look how I turned out. I have brothers and sisters who married cousins. I have lots of people in my family who are cousins who are married. absolutely not a single issue in any of my siblings, family, ever. So, you want to marry cousin, go ahead. You don't want to, go find a halal baddie.
That's it, buddy. Okay, so if you're curious about whether or not there's been a decent legal response to this, like, has anybody done anything to try to stop the cousin marriages? Well, they have, definitely. There's been bills to ban first cousin marriage in the UK. But they've been met with swift opposition, and I'll let you hear that swift opposition yourself.
An estimated 35 to 50% of all sub-Saharan African populations either prefer or accept cousin marriages, and it is extremely common in the Middle East and in South Asia. The reason the practice is so common is that ordinary people see family intermarriage overall as something that is very positive, something that helps build family bonds and helps put families on a more secure financial foothold. I would therefore urge the House to vote against this motion and to find a more positive approach. A
more positive approach. If you didn't catch enough of that, if that wasn't enough to make you nervous or sick, I will leave that clip in the description for yourself. You can see Iqbal Mohammed, the independent MP in their house, defending first cousin marriage in the parliament. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what else to say. I mean, there's been rants all about it on GBN. If you don't know, that's one of their major news services. They've just been on about it, as they would say.
Now, what on earth is the NHS playing at, saying that there are benefits to first cousin marriage?
Yeah, the benefits are things like cystic fibrosis, heart, lung and brain defects, deformed skulls, extra fingers. Yeah, are they benefits? What happens to them? And I read a piece on Sunday saying it's up to 15% of children that are born with these defects. What the hell is happening to this health service? Midwives should be looking after kids, not actually promoting what is in fact an Islamic custom. It says here that it said staff shouldn't stigmatise predominantly South Asian or Muslim patients because the practice is perfectly normal in some cultures. Not in this culture. Yeah, it's not normal. Exactly. And the reason it's not against the law in this country, which it should be, is because we don't want to offend Muslims. So the NHS is now, it's been infiltrated by ideologues of all description. It's been infiltrated by trans ideologues. Now it's Islamic ideologues. We're terrified of offending Muslims, but we're prepared to have children like the one you just saw on that screen there live miserable lives. And what do these Muslim cultures do, I wonder, with those kids? What kind of lives do those children have? Terrible ones. And to have a health service in this country that is actually advocating that and promoting it it's worse than obscene. It really is.
I mean, pop off Carol Malone, I guess. She's given her opinion, and she's given it swiftly, ladies and gentlemen. She will not be stopped. She will not be stopped, and neither will I, man. It's not my fault that the materials, they go further than noting the possible benefits, you know what I mean, of close relative marriages. And they say in some cultural contexts, particularly within certain communities where the practice is more common, such as among British Pakistani families, these include stronger extended family support networks, emotional and social connections, and even economic advantages, like keeping resources, property, or inheritance within the family rather than spreading it out. Very Habsburgian. Oh my God, that is literally straight out of the very ancient style Europe. You know what I mean? I don't know what else to say. It's nerve wracking. The guidance is argues also that discouraging such marriages outright could feel like it's alienating or ineffective, and instead this will promote cultural sensitivity, a better education on genetics, and informed choices for those considering it. If you're considering it, I don't know what else to say except for selfish, right? I mean, it's drawing sharp criticism from politicians and me, commentators, health experts. I mean, I'm not even a health expert, and I'm just gonna say it. I'm not into this. This is not what you need for I get it. You want more. I get that they're trying to find a way to say, hey, the Muslims are outbreeding us. The Muslims are they're nervous about saying great replacement theory over in that country. So instead of getting racist and whatnot. They don't have the spine of a lot of Americans, you know what I mean? Where the Americans, they're gonna make hoods, they're gonna make a fucking like Friday night burn the cross nights and whatnot. That's what Americans are up to. But over in Britain, they're just gonna like tap on their buddy's door and they're gonna be like, hey, we're gonna talk about the National Health Services, and we're gonna talk about how we don't like the king and nothing like that. Like, their level of insubordination is just so much less, you know what I mean? Their soul and character for it's just not in them. I don't know what it is. It's not there from their people. I don't know. Critics, including conservative MP Richard Holden, they've called for clearer warnings or even a ban. The NHS maintains that it recognizes genetic risks and focuses on supported, informed decisions rather than cultural judgment. It's not cultural judgment to say that, in our country, or at least it should be the law, that you don't marry your cousin. Is that a fair argument? Or at least if you wouldn't want that, I would ask why you wouldn't want that. Because I would argue that I don't want to live in a country where a person is allowed to marry their first cousin. That's my argument. You know what I mean? I don't care what that says. We're going to continue to cover the story as it comes out with more. I don't really, it's making me sick. It's making me sick talking about it. You know what I mean? So we're done. We're done for now. So we're going to move on to the next story because it's quite a doozy. China's population is falling for the 4th straight year, ladies and gentlemen. What does that mean? What could it mean for you? I don't know. So that's why we're going to get into this article. That's why I'm going to read it to you. According to the latest official data released this week, in 2025, the country's total population dropped by 3.39 million people, bringing it down to 1.405 billion. That still sounds like a lot to me. That's a faster rate of decline than the previous year, and it marks the continuation of a worrying trend that began around 2022. More deaths and births drove a bunch of shrinkage. Funny word. With 11.31 million deaths recorded against the 7.92 million births. Lowest number of newborns since the records began in 1949. 1949? I mean, I guess America didn't really have records until like the 1920s, 30s. Even in the 1950s, people would still be like, iffy about if you did an at-home birth, your dad maybe wouldn't get into town to report it for like another couple days. I'm just going to be honest with you. So birth records, even up until the 50s, 60s, are still just kind of iffy, unless you were born in a hospital. That's just kind of the realness about it. The birth rate also has hit a historic low of 5.63 babies per 1,000 people. In 2025, a sharp 70% drop from 2024's already low figures. I mean, they're just not into it. Mao destroyed the interest. You know what I mean? Well, actually, no, it's not. I'm not going to blame Mao, because originally his idea was that in order for China to thrive, it needs a growing population. So he actually encouraged the Chinese people to have as many babies as possible, and then eventually he died of ALS eventually, unfortunately. God rest your soul, Mao. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's very sad. Eventually, they inherited the one-child policy, and it didn't go very well for them. They didn't, everybody kind of remembers the era of, like, scary documentaries they were forced to watch in the classroom where, moms, they were clutching their second child, and then the government would break in and either demand money or drown the baby in a river or something. Or that's the thing, is that male dominance is still just kind of a thing over there. Oh my God, you want to talk about sexism in the United States? Let's talk about the Asian world, because it's ridiculous, where you can literally buy, like, I know you can buy women over here and sex trafficking is bad, but man, in China, it's like they got vending machines of women. They got the women already naked in like pressed wrap with like plastic and stuff, and then you hit I want B9, and then the women, they're like screaming, and then they fall down, and then you and your buddies just like pull it out. It's terrifying over there. I'm not saying like this is a good thing. I'm saying this is what they do. I'm saying this is a cultural thing. You know what I mean? I'm saying that this is a culture of like vending machines where you can buy panties. You know what I mean? It's efficiency, but it's also perversion. And I don't know. I'm just telling you the news. That's all I'm telling you. I'm not saying whatever it is. Experts point out also that this level is roughly comparable to the number of births since the 1700s, when China's population was far smaller, around 150 million. Despite aggressive government efforts to reverse the slide, including financial incentives, subsidies for child rearing, or even fully covered medical costs for pregnancy and fertility treatments, the number keeps heading downward. Damn, that sucks for China. High living costs in cities, youth unemployment, economic pressures, changing attitudes towards family are all playing cost and a big role in why young couples are having fewer children or none at all. I mean, admittedly, what's the interest in China anymore? Do you want your kid to work at the Temu factory? Do you want your kid to, I don't know that people in China care about their children very much. They might not. And admittedly, they might look at us and they might go, I don't think people in America care about their children very much. We don't. Have you seen Euphoria? It's like a pretty accurate depiction of what goes on in most suburb high schools and whatnot. If your town has more than 5,000 people in it, watch Euphoria. It's what's happening to your children at their high school. I'm sorry. It's just it's accurate depiction. But in China, it's like different. You know what I mean? It's much less kind of a freedom, I'm my own individual energy. It's much more, you're going to do your hair like everybody else. You're going to style yourself like everybody else. Individualism is going to be programmed out of you at an early age, which, I understand that. That's kind of their culture. That's their heritage, and I respect that. You're going to be a unit of production. You're going to be a product that is going to make sheen dresses, and then you're going to have 16-hour days, and admittedly, I know that sounds like a lot, but that is still 8 hours where you still get to be free, you get to do whatever you want. And then you'll spend 4 of those hours with your girlfriends, you know what I mean? You'll be like, hanging out, maybe at a cafe where you're going to get, you're going to get leered at by some creepy old guys that are eating miso soup or whatever. And then you and your girls, you're going to get on like the express train, the fast rail, the monorail, the kind that Gavin Newsom failed to, fucking make in California. That you're going to get on that monorail and then you're going to be groped by that same elderly man because admittedly, God, the sexual harassment in the Asian countries, it is rough. It's bad. And then you're going to get to your not your hotel, your little pod, apartment that is kind of, it's about the size of like, the bathroom of a hotel room at like a Super 8. That's about the size of your actual, that's your house. That's the size of your apartment. And then you're going to have like a little dog, you're going to have a cat, whatever. You're going to have lo-fi music playing with like LED lights and like maybe a lava lamp. And then you're going to have your 1 by 1 foot window where you get a view of the air shaft, and it's beautiful. And that is the kind of vision for a lot of people in China, and that's why a lot of them are going, why the fuck would I have kids? Why would I condemn them to a life of what I'm already living? And, I'm just saying, kind of the vision in China, it's either to get rich so that you can build a skyscraper high enough to escape the slum that you are building yourself out of, and then you live on that skyscraper and you drink, you drink your matcha and you look down and you're like, I escaped. I made it up. I literally built up out of all of you. I can't get out because Beijing is already so fucking full. So we all got to build up. If we want to avoid the poor people, we got to build up. That's what the future is going to be. The 22nd century, the century is going to be just the rich people building as high up as they can, as high in the sky as they can, to avoid the mess they've created on the ground. And it's within line within their behavior. We can track it. It's why they want to go to space. It's why they're sending the richest people among them into the atmosphere, because they want to escape. They want to get away. And that's understandable. Because we're all going to be burning in hell. This will be hell. We're all the demons. We are the demons that they fear. The ongoing decline is raising serious alarm for China's future. Let's go ahead and let's address this ABC News clip, ladies and gentlemen.
And new numbers show China's population falling for the 4th straight year. Beijing has been trying to encourage more young people to marry and have kids, but that doesn't seem to be working. Now the UN estimates China could lose more than half its current population by the year 2100. ABC foreign correspondent Britt Clennett has the details from Hong Kong. Hi, Britt.
Diane, demographic alarm bells are really ringing in China now as its birth rate collapsed in 2025 to the lowest levels since the Chinese Communist Party took over in 1949. Now, that's 5.63 per 1,000 people last year, despite a whole host of incentives that have been rolled out by the Chinese government, including a subsidy scheme which involves giving each year for one child $1,530.
How bad does your country have to be to where you can't pay people to fuck? You can't pay people to do that. Like, it's stunning. I don't know. Like, all the young men, they're like, I'm just going to trade Bitcoin until I can afford to buy some woman off the street. I'll be running with my posse outside a nightclub called Bingjing Zhao, and then I'll point at some girl and I'll be like, the Bingjongcha, which means that one. And then they will grab her, they'll bag her up, we'll throw her in the van, and she'll be my wife. And then she'll tell our kids that story, and they'll tell their friends at school that, and that will be, like, culturally normal.
The Chinese government has also raised taxes on contraceptives. That was a move criticized by some as causing a spike in unwanted births and potentially leading to a spread in sexually transmitted diseases too. China did begin relaxing the one-child policy in 2016, but really it struggled to convince young people to have more than one child. And that's really adding to weight on a country already facing an aging population and sluggish economy. China also moved to make it easier to register for marriage and harder to get divorced. The total population in China, though, it has fallen for the fourth straight year. Last year, 1.404 billion. That's 3 million less than the previous year, Diane.
Yikes.
All right, Britt Clinton in Hong Kong for us. Britt, thank you.
I mean, I thought white people couldn't procreate in their own countries, but damn. I mean, that just sucks. That just sucks for China. I don't know what else to say. This ongoing decline, I'm worried for China's future. The population, it's aging rapidly. There's a population of people over 60. It's now about 23% of the total. That's more than 320 million individuals. I mean, you gotta, if you're the sandwich generation, you know, the generation of people where your kids have moved out of the house, or maybe you're bringing kids up, or your parents are old, and then your parents are old and you gotta take care of them. That's what we call a sandwich generation. And that's gonna be a lot of people in China soon. It's gonna be a lot. They're expected to grow even faster. A shrinking workforce could also strain pensions, healthcare, and the economic growth as fewer working-age people are supporting a larger elderly population. It's nerve-wracking. Beijing is already starting to raise the retirement age gradually and pouring resources into pro-family policies, but demographers warn that the challenges could persist for decades, potentially reshaping everything from the economy to social services in the world's second-largest economy. Jesus Christ. I mean, be nervous. Be nervous if you're from China. But if you're from America, just be nervous about the fact that more women are initiating divorces than ever.
Did you know that January is unofficially considered divorce month? Family law attorneys, yeah, you didn't know that, right?
Didn't know that.
The family law attorneys say they are always busier this time of year as many couples try to make a fresh start. Una Metz is a therapist who specializes in treating women as they navigate the emotional effects of divorce. Her new book is called Unhitched, the Essential Divorce Guide for Women. You can buy it right now by scanning the QR code on your screen. She writes, for many women, divorce results in growth and transformation they never imagined possible. Una Metz joins us now. Good morning. Good to see you.
So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Tell us,
So
you oracle of knowledge, why are women cutting it up? Why are women cutting the knot?
There are a lot of things that I learned in this book, including the fact that 69% of divorces are initiated by women. And then divorce rates among people aged 65 and older, so the baby boomers, have tripled since the 1990s.
Dang.
That's right.
Why? What's going on in both of those cases?
So, in terms of the divorce rate being 69% of women are initiating it, there's a lot of reasons for that. One is that divorce works better for men. So men are not initiating divorce nearly as much. But what I find in my practice, I work with women all the time who are getting divorced, and what I find is that oftentimes they're the ones who have to initiate, but their husband has already left the marriage in some way.
Already checked out.
He has checked out through infidelity, through financial abuse, through emotional abuse. But guess what? He's still sitting on the couch.
Right.
He's not going to initiate the divorce, but the marriage is already over. So the woman bears the brunt of having to end it.
You asked about baby.
Yeah, baby boomers. So it's tripled since the 1990s. In fact, boomers now are divorcing more than any other generation.
That surprises me.
Or they're dying. Like, admittedly, you meet some baby boomers and they're like, yeah, my wife just died. Or, yeah, my husband just died. And it's like, okay, yeah, but I've known you for the longest time. You didn't like them. So, like, you talk to them and then they go, like, yeah, I'm going on a cruise next month. And then they go, okay. That's kind of that's another way that a lot of people, if you're in the older generation, if you're in your 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, whatever, if you're at a certain, even like 50s, 40s, if your husband, like, eats a bad dinner one day and then he just croaks and, like, so what, he beat you? You know what I mean? No one needs to know where you got those mushrooms. You know what I mean? You might have gotten them from the grocery store. You might have got, paid somebody from behind a sugar lot or something like that. I don't know. No one needs to know. That's my point, is that, like, listen, there's a lot of ways to end a relationship, and death, if you can avoid it, it's nice, because then someone doesn't have to die, obviously. But if a tragic circumstance, whatever, were to take them, that's just how some relationships really do end. That's how it goes. You know what I mean? If you're like, what's it called? If your partner's like, I'll be right back, and you guys are on a plane together, and then you're like, okay, and you're still strapped in because they get up to use the bathroom, and then say the window cracks and they get sucked out because of the change in pressure. That's just how it happens. And you're like 35. And that'll happen at any age. That's the thing. You know what I mean? So if you can avoid it, death is nice. Not nice.
Together so long, why would you?
Our parent generation always said you stay to the bitter end.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
That was the original American dream generation, right? The marriage and the white picket fence.
That's right. That's right. But I think now that women have a lot more economic independence, I think they are saying, I don't have to stay for the economics, right? I can leave.
We're also living longer.
Exactly.
We
are living longer, and when you're married for 30 years and you think, well, maybe I've got another 10 or 15 to go, maybe you can bear with it. But if you're married for 30 years and you think, oh my God, I've got another 30 to go, I don't think I can
take it. There's going to be some changes around here. I agree with Vlad in terms of your book, Una, had so much good information.
Oh, thank you.
And I think, and you touch on all levels, telling the kids, when to tell the kids, how to tell the kids. But you said, most of us, we dream of getting married. We don't dream of getting divorced ever. Women grieve, men replace. So true. Income suffers for women, but in most cases, they're better psychologically and happier.
That's right.
Income suffers for women. Excuse you. Okay, no one wants to get honest. If you're a woman, absolutely, go and divorce your husband, because do you know what you got coming down the pipeline? Say it with me now. You got alimony. You got alimony, because it's a fucking crime. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, alimony is one of the biggest schemes and crimes against men that has ever been cooked up by the marriage system. I'm sorry to say it. It ruins a lot of men financially. Meanwhile, and listen, you want to talk about divorce proceedings? In most instances, and I will concede this, most instances it's because the man is making more. But it's, you know how it gets divvied out? It is actually, in most instances, you're not paying half. You're not actually, most people, they go, just divorce, give half. You know what I mean? It's, in most instances, it's not half. It's 1/3. You get 1/3, she gets 1/3, the lawyer gets 1/3. It's not a fair divvy up. And then eventually your wages are going to essentially be garnished. It is a modern version of slavery in most instances. If you don't have a kid, it's ridiculous and unjustifiable. If you have a kid, there's versions of child support that I would support, but alimony is creepy and I can't support it. I can't get behind it ethically.
But this is what struck me. Even if you want the divorce, you said there's no such thing as a painless divorce.
Exactly. So sometimes people think if you're the one who initiated the divorce, that you're happy to get divorced.
Yeah.
And that's not true. There is always heartbreak when you initiate a divorce. There's
Well, no,
always
duh.
a feeling of guilt or regret when you initiate a divorce.
Why are women happier?
Afterwards?
In many cases.
In many cases, the research shows that 75% of women do not regret the decision to get divorced. I think divorce is always heartbreaking.
What about the other 25%? That kind of sucks.
In the beginning, it's messy in the middle,
Yeah.
but at the end, it offers these incredible opportunities for growth, healing, and transformation.
For men
Yeah.
too.
For men too. Yep. Well, and men oftentimes will go right into another relationship.
Yes.
Many times. Well, I can't speak from, okay, I will speak from knowing people. I will speak from knowing divorcees, as they would like to be called. I will speak from knowing people who, they are the declaration-y type. They're like, I just got out of a relationship, and I'm really taking back my individuality, and I'm really redefining myself as a person, and I'm taking time for me. And then they jump into a relationship immediately with another person. 90% of the time that sort of a thing happens, it's a girl. I'm sorry to say it. It is a female that I have known, that I have talked to. It 90% of the time. I will say men are not prone. They are prone to that in some way. It's not emotional though. They like replacing. I will say that yes, they do not. They grieve in certain ways. It's all under the surface and it's all bottled up so that they will throw something at their child when they're like 40. What I'm saying about men is that they have a way of taking their anger, putting it into a wine bottle, corking it up, and then they will put it on the shelf for when it's going to be the nastiest shit to unveil at, I don't know, your son when he spills something on a rug in 20 or so years from now, or maybe for like the beginning of your heart attack 30 years from now. You know what I mean? Like that's what men do. They have no way of dealing with things emotionally that is relatively healthy, unless it's kind of like, you know what I mean, drink, look at a sunset, and then like listen to, I don't know, ants marching, some shit that'll make them giggle. You know what I mean? And then I think that women have definitely a different way of processing things. But in the regards to the replacement theory, I've known plenty of people who are divorcees or people who've left relationships who just they fuck it right up by jumping right into the next relationship of whoever just gives them attention. Sorry, it's true.
Always
She said, well, I don't know. Men be tripping sometimes.
But it offers women a chance for a new identity.
Yes.
And that can be really healing.
But let's talk about that healing, because you also write about resetting, rediscovering, finding yourself again.
Yes.
What happens on the other side of
That's
pain,
right.
and then that separation and divorce. What advice do you have for those women and men that might be sitting there in the darkness and they can't see the light yet?
Right.
See the light.
So I would say I have seen hundreds and hundreds of women through the divorce process, and most of them come out the other side and really feel so much better.
Most.
And it's so hard to know that when you're in the beginning.
It's
'cause
scary,
The beginning
yeah.
is scary and it's painful, and yet there is a transformation that happens.
You gotta
It is
do
an
it.
evolution, and people will feel better at the end.
And there's also that judgment that people feel, right?
That's right.
From outside of the home.
Yeah, she said there's a similarity between grieving a death or grieving a divorce. That sometimes the feelings are the same, but I think it's so important what you say about children. How and when to
Tell the children.
Yeah, what is the best way to do that? And sometimes when, there's a separation, you say to the kids, I'm going to miss you this weekend. Don't say that. Say, I look forward to I look forward to your return. How and when to tell the children? What's your bottom line on that? In less than 30
it's
seconds?
so important to be very thoughtful about the way that you tell the children.
You tell
and
the
I
children.
address that in the book. It's important that the two parents come together and really have a script that they're going to say to their kids. Really, the most important thing is to let the kids know that it's not their fault. Right?
Yes, let your
And
kids
that
know.
you can come-
Let your kids know that it's not your fault. You know what I mean? I think this is an absolutely healthy way to deal with it. 90% of the time, it's not going to go this way. I will say that. 90% of the time, it will be an instance of, let me run you through a simulation. Bob and Nancy are getting a divorce. Bob walks into the son's room and he says, your mother's being a bitch, so I'm on my way to the Ramada Inn. I'll be back whenever. He leaves his son's room, and then he goes to his daughter's room and he says, I love you, sweetie. I'll talk to you very soon. And then, he heads out. The mother calls both of the children into the room, and then they go, what's wrong, Mom? And where's Dad? They both say. And then the mom goes, listen, Daddy's gonna go to the hotel for a little while, but In the meantime, you and me are gonna sit. We're gonna sit down and we're gonna watch. The Bourne Identity together, and we're going to sit and we're gonna have a movie night. And she sits with the kids. She has a movie night because she's got to distract them somehow. She's got to do something. And then eventually she throws on a movie. And then the gentleman, he's at the hotel, passed out with another woman, obviously. And then the woman, she leaves her kids downstairs and she goes upstairs to cheat on her husband on Facebook with some guy who's half her age, and she proceeds to fall asleep on her iPad with over-the-counter medication in her system and a bottle of wine. That is what is going to be 90% of most actual divorces in this country. I'm sorry to say it. I like to keep it real on this show, but let's stop dilly-dallying, guys. It's fun. It's fun to joke. It's fun to vibe, but we got to talk about the real shit that's going on in this world. We got to talk about the rapid fire section of today's headlines. Folks, there's a few things we need to cover, a few things that are important to keep your media diet healthy. So, let's get into it. Why on earth is Brigitte Macron's bitch, Emmanuel, the president of France, fucking wearing sunglasses like Terminator?
Why is the president of France wearing aviator-style sunglasses at Davos? No, it is not a fashion statement, nor indeed a stunt in front of the gathered world leaders.
I think that his husband hit him. That's what I think.
Instead, it turns out that President Macron has an eye condition. Just a few days earlier, he'd appeared at a New Year's ceremony to the armed forces, declaring that he had the condition and that it was perfectly harmless. President Macron then first donned.
He goes, I'm sorry for the unsightly appearance of my eye. It's bloodshot and it looks like he caught a left hook to the face. I'm not gonna lie, it looks like Brigitte. It looks like Brigitte went ahead and unleashed a hard one on his face. Please excuse me, the glasses, which are related to minor issue, but I have to wear them for a while. So you'll have to put up with me.
To Davos, where, with that Terminator-like appearance, President Macron delivered his most striking rebuke of President Trump's position so far.
I mean, yeah, rebuke him while looking pretty cool as fuck, man. But speaking of Davos, does anybody actually know why they were there? They were there to discuss the frozen, beautiful land of Greenland, ladies and gentlemen, the future 51st state. I don't know why we're doing it, but it seems like it's happening. So, it's the closest thing we have to Agartha, and I'm excited as fuck. Trump, his Greenland gambit, it's blowing up at the NATO conference in Davos. He strolled in and he was like, who wants Greenland? It's not a condo, it's a NATO ally territory, ladies and gentlemen, and they are ready to fight over it. They were ready to rebuke it with words. China also chimed in. They went ahead and they said that, no thanks, we'd rather have as absolute control over the Arctic Sea trade routes as much as we can. We'd rather have that to ourselves. So, listen, I'm not saying that I am in absolute favor with Trump here. I'm not saying that, yes, 100% we need Greenland. It's of absolute necessity to us. I'm saying, why not? Could be fun. Speaking of which, the U.S. Also has just kind of quietly pulled 200 troops out of NATO roles. Interestingly, their positions are amid the rising transatlantic strains. NATO leadership is urging diplomacy after the U.S.-Denmark snubs. I mean, they're going ahead and they're saying, let's talk, after the U.S. Treasury Secretary essentially told Denmark it was irrelevant. I love it. It's like ignoring your dentist and then asking him for a whitening appointment. I love it. Trump's Davos speech, allies are stunned and markets are tumbling, man. Concerns are growing over U.S. democracy's health. Also, the Guardian analysis is also warning American democracy might be veering into, quote, a competitive authoritarianism. it's an interpretation. I would authoritarianism may be strong words for my opinions. There's massive Free America walkouts across U.S. cities on yesterday and continuing into today. There's been a few stragglers because a few kids still want school off, which I understand and I respect that. The Iranian protests, the crackdown has gotten so much worse. It's shaken the whole goddamn region. We have clips. Hold on a minute. We have BBC clips of them talking about the Greenland deal with Denmark. Here we go. We have Trump discussing with a lovely lady, a very kind journalist.
Why is it so important to you to own it when you have a military presence there, which you could expand to affect security?
Because when we own it, we defend it. You don't defend leases the same way. You have to own it. If we don't do it, China or Russia will. It's not going to happen. We are not going to have, and I like China, I like Russia, I love the people of China, I love the people of Russia. I get along very well with President Putin, but I'm very disappointed in him. I get along very well with President Xi. I'm going to go over to China in April, but I don't want them as a neighbor in Greenland. Not going to happen. And by the way, and NATO's got to understand that. I'm all for NATO. I saved NATO. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have a NATO right now.
NATO.
But we're not going to allow Russia or China to occupy Greenland, and that's what's going to happen.
That's what's going to happen, according to him. I love the way... here's another clip. We're going down a fucking, just a fun thing. Here he left a group of people sounding like a bunch of the Meep fellas from SpongeBob.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland? You'll find out. I love it. I love the energy. During these meetings and whatnot, during an EU meeting recently, a gentleman attempted to condemn Trump's speeches about his country. This Denmarky fella, this Danish man, stood up and he used some strong language that, it received a reaction.
Let me put this in words you might understand. Mr. President, off.
I'm sorry, colleague. This is against our rules. As much as you might feel, or the room might feel in this, we have clear rules about cuss words, language that is inappropriate in this room. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it is unacceptable, even if you might have strong political feelings about this.
Wow. The lack of aura in the EU's parliament. I love it. It's one of my favorite things, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's jump from the rapid fire section into the final story of today. Thank you all so much for being here. Let's do it. JD Vance is to stop in Minneapolis, yay, to discuss ICE operations. I can't wait. Can you wait? I don't think you can. Reports indicate that he is going to arrive today, ladies and gentlemen, Thursday. We don't know what he's going to discuss. Wait, no, not today. I'm so tired. It's Wednesday. What am I even saying? He'll arrive tomorrow, Thursday, for a series of engagements focused on the current situation involving federal immigration enforcement in the state. His visit is coming amid the heightened tensions, as we all know, over the significant increase in operations by ICE. And other federal agents, particularly in the Twin Cities area. I mean, all of the ongoing protests, the clashes between the demonstrators, and the recent, at the church, the kerfuffle, as they've labeled it. I mean, no one can settle the anger in the room better than the gentleman himself, Mr. Vance.
President J.D. Vance will be making a stop in Minneapolis tomorrow. A source is telling NBC News that Vance is coming to meet with local leaders and community members for a roundtable discussion. They haven't said who that would be involved with just yet, but this comes as the Justice Department is looking into the offices of some of our local leaders. Megan McPherson is joining us now with a breakdown of this latest legal action. Megan.
Good morning. The offices of Governor Walz, Twin Cities Mayors Jacob Frey and Khalil Herr, and Attorney General Keith Ellison confirmed their offices received federal subpoenas. Hennepin and Ramsey counties tell us they were also on the receiving end of a subpoena for county records related to federal immigration enforcement. A copy of a subpoena sent to Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey's office shows the Department of Justice is demanding records, documents, and communications dating back to January 1st.
Damn.
Prosecutors are specifically specifically seeking anything tied to federal immigration enforcement, including records that could show refusal to assist immigration officials. Last week, sources told NBC News the DOJ is examining the actions of Governor Walz and Mayor Frey, relying on a rarely used federal statute dating back to the Civil War era. And as both leaders have openly criticized federal agents operating in the state, federal officials argue...
I don't like the defense that they go like, oh, the haven't used it since the Civil War, a law made in the Civil War era. The law of freedom of speech has existed since the start of the country. I mean, I don't know that a law's age necessarily makes it invalid.
That rhetoric and actions by elected leaders may have fueled interference with immigration enforcement. However, one legal expert tells KARE 11 criticism of federal agents is not a crime.
It's that collusion and corruption between elected officials and these anarchists that are intent on creating violence for law enforcement.
There is no evidence that the mayor, the governor, or anyone else has encouraged anyone to commit a crime against a federal agent. Rhetoric that strongly condemns the federal law enforcement operations in this state is First Amendment protected speech.
In a statement Tuesday, Walz called the DOJ investigation a, quote, partisan distraction, while inviting President Trump to see the state, to see Minnesota's values in action. I'll share a legal expert's take on those claims and if they hold up under the law.
Don't take his offer.
In about 30 minutes.
I'm sorry. Donald Trump should not accept the offer right now because tensions are a little hot for a visit to Minneapolis right now for the President of the United States. I don't know that he would survive the visit. I'm sorry to say it.
Democrats in Minnesota are facing a growing federal scrutiny as the Justice Department investigates whether they conspired to impede ICE operations. ABC News learning Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, the mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul, and 2 counties' attorneys have been served with subpoenas by the DOJ. All Democrats who have publicly spoken out against the Trump administration's crackdown on undocumented immigrants. Border Patrol official Gregory Bavino defending the conduct of agents, saying the, quote, tactics are born of necessity.
They're targeted and they're focused on individuals who pose a serious threat to this community. They are not random and they are not political.
Bavino saying numerous criminals accused of everything from assault to rape arrested over the weekend, though providing no evidence to support that when asked by reporters. But U.S. citizens have also been swept up in the raids, and local officials say weeks of violent traffic stops and other actions taken by ICE are hurting the community, even police. Brooklyn Park Police Chief Mark Bruley, along with other local law enforcement, describe multiple instances of their own officers, all people of color, being stopped by ICE agents while off duty.
If it is happening to our officers, it pains me to think of how many of our community members are falling victim to this every day. It has to stop.
After ICE agents pulled him from his home shirtless in the bitter cold, only to be released without charges an hour later, Chongli Scott Tao, who's a naturalized U.S. citizen from Laos, is speaking out about his experience.
This isn't sorry or anything. They just, okay, you're good. Just laugh. That's about it.
His family says the people agents were looking for,
federal
officials say are violent criminals, never even lived in the home. Trump acknowledging that ICE has made some mistakes.
You know, they're going to make mistakes sometimes. ICE is going to be too rough with somebody, or, you know, they're dealing with rough people. They're going to make a mistake sometimes. It can happen. We feel terribly.
Democratic Minnesota State Senate President Bobby Joe Champion pushing back.
The comment made by the president is just a way of not coming full circle around admitting that ICE has been pretty destructive.
Now, as for the vice president's visit, we don't yet know who he will meet with or where, but safe to say, Michael, he will be met with protests on arrival.
He will. I mean, that is definitely for sure, ladies and gentlemen. Granted, this was the rhetoric that he decided to close shit out with.
11,888 murders. We've gotten most of them out. And then ICE gets beat up by stupid people.
Stupid people.
From leadership in Minnesota. We actually are helping Minnesota so much, but they don't appreciate it. Most places do. 11,888 murders.
There we go. Most people would appreciate it. Listen, yeah. Whenever he visits, we will cover it tomorrow. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for more details. We're going to look into more shit. We're going to look into the details. I'll bring them all to you hot and fresh out the kitchen when they occur. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you for attending today's broadcast. I know it was shorter than usual, but if anything, it's better because, you know what I mean? I don't like taking up hours and hours of your day. So, thank you so very much for listening. I hope that you join us for tomorrow's broadcast. Is it Thursday? Yes, Thursday's broadcast. We got Thursday, Friday. There's no federal holidays next week, so I will be there all 5 days. I hope you have a wonderful, incredible, a beyond your wildest dreams rest of your Wednesday. Hope that you have a good time. This has been Ollie Vogt Larson with your Brain on Air. Thank you so very much for listening. I'll catch you in tomorrow's broadcast. Bye-bye.